How do you like that, man?
I need you so bad, baby. This is where you belong. Don't make me wait too long. All night long. Hold me, baby, drive me crazy, touch me all night long, make me love you, kiss and touch me all night long. You're my handyman.
Damn it, Jesse, what are you doing? Playing with your dinghy?
I'll leave the two of you alone. Excuse
What's
me.
going on, everybody? It's another episode of Master Rating here with JB. This week, of course, we're going in chronological order here, man. We're doing Freddy's Revenge, A Nightmare on Elm Street, number 2. Obviously, a huge drop-off from the original when it comes to this one, but it's not terrible. And Jesus Christ, I feel like a fucking midget trying to talk into this microphone. There we go. That's probably really loud. But fuck it. So, all right. That's much better. All right, so we're going to be talking Nightmare on Elm Street 2, Freddy's Revenge, right here on Master Rating, episode number 2. There's a lot to talk about with this movie because it's not really favored amongst the Nightmare on Elm Street community, the no-S community, the big fans of the series, not big fans of this film in particular. Now, I like this one better than, like, a couple. It's definitely not the worst one. Some people do look at this as the worst on Nightmare on Elm Street because as far as, like, the story of Freddy Krueger, it doesn't even, like, play into the original idea of how he comes into the world, what his powers are and stuff like that. And we'll talk about that as we get into the show. But if you missed the first episode of Master Rating, we went over the 1984 classic that spawned a whole different generation of horror, more than one generation too, by the way. The movie, even when they remade it in 2010, destroyed the box office at $115.9 million, outdoing the Friday the 13th remake in 2009. So there's still a huge audience for A Nightmare on Elm Street. So if you missed Master Rating episode number 1, the debut show, the inaugural show, go check it out before you listen to this one, or you can listen to this one, then listen to that one. It'll probably help better if you listen to the first episode. That way, for those of you out there, because there's some people who actually messaged me and said that they have not seen A Nightmare on Elm Street, and listening to my review of it made them go out and get it. So that's great. As long as I can bring more fans to A Street, that's awesome. And of course, we're not just going to cover horror movies on Master Rating all the time, but with Halloween coming up, the month of October, we're going to be doing a lot of horror movies. On my slate here, I've got way too many movies. So there will probably be... It's going to come down to probably releasing 1 to 2 episodes a week if I cover as many as I have here. Because, of course, I have A Nightmare on Elm Street, Friday the 13th, Halloween, Saw, Texas Chainsaw Massacre with Leatherface. So I'm going to be covering all the icons. But make sure and check out the first episode of Master Rating. Check us out on Twitter, JB Sports Radio. It's at JB Sports Radio. We don't just talk sports here on the program. Go away, McAfee. I don't need you. I'm not talking about Pat McAfee. I'm talking about my antivirus software. Go away. You're fucking everything up. All right, now we're good. So we're not just covering horror movies on JB Sports Radio. Excuse me, we're not just covering sports on JB Sports Radio. We also are doing some different things. Master Rating was very well received. I was overwhelmed to see how well it was received. It was the top downloaded program this week out of all the shows, including the JB Radio Show. All of the shows were outdone by Master Rating, and I was blown away by the reception of the show. So it's doing great. So without ado, I don't want to waste too much time here. Let's get right into A Nightmare on Elm Street 2, Freddy's Revenge. Now, this film takes place, I want to say, 5 years. I think it's supposed to take place 4 or 5 years after the original Nightmare on Elm Street. some loser named Jesse. They move into 1428 Elm Street, of course, the house that it all took place in the first movie. He moves there as soon as they first move there. For some reason, he sleeps in his underwear and his whitey tighties and sweats all night, dreams about Freddy, and then wakes up the next morning and screams like a literal pussy bitch. I mean, it is like every time I hear it, I just fucking laugh because it's so like he just screams like a woman. Fun fact. He's gay in real life. I'm not saying that's why he screams like a woman, but he's gay in real life, and as a matter of fact, there's a conspiracy to this movie, which is actually not so much a conspiracy anymore because it was actually confirmed by Robert Englund, who plays Freddy Krueger, and the director of the film. There's actually a little bit of a homoeroticism undertone to this movie. A lot of homosexuality within the movie because there are a lot of different things, and we'll get to that throughout the movie because there's many different things, a lot of signs that people used to speculate about, and then in interviews through the years, they've asked the starring actor, which I don't remember his name. Again, this is not one I just researched through the moon, but the lead actor who plays Jesse has said that, there were certain things, like on the door to his bedroom, there's a sign that says no trespassing, like not chicks or something, like no chicks allowed or something. There's also a scene in the movie when in the middle of the night, he wakes up out of bed and he goes to a gay bar, a gay S&M bar, and gets a drink, and his gym teacher is there. He's dressed in S&M, and, the gym... Again, people, I know this is a lot to take right now. If you watch the movie, obviously you'll get a little bit more out of it. And then there's a scene later towards the end of the movie when Jesse and the girl who across the street, his best friend, I believe it's Lisa? I think it's Lisa. And they start making out at this house party that Lisa's having out by the pool. They go inside, where like you change, whatever they call those places, like a fucking pool house or whatever. And they start like making out and stuff. And Jesse like gets ready to go down on her. And as he's going down on her, she's got her eyes closed. She's whatever. And then as he's getting ready to go down on her vagina, his tongue just like. It looks like Freddy's tongue just plops out of his mouth, and he sees it like just a real gross looking tongue, and he freaks out and he flocks from the house and goes to his like Jekyll and Hyde best friend Grady, who like they always fight, but yet like he confides in him. So like there's this weird undertone that he was grossed out by making out with this chick, and he's about to eat her pussy out, and then like his tongue like comes out like he's disgusted by it, so he flocks to a guy's house to sleep there. So I know it's weird. My phone goes off. It's weird to like say that and kind of open the show that there's a little bit of a homoerotic undertone to the movie, but it's been confirmed. So there is some strangeness in this movie, but with that, we got that out of the way. The movie takes place, like I said, 4 or 5 years after the original happenings in the movie. So Jesse, he's having nightmares. He doesn't know why. He's not getting sleep, and he's, as a matter of fact, we led the show in with the song, that little, I don't know who sings it, or I don't really give a shit, but it's a dance scene in the movie when he's like, his dad says he can't go to Lisa's house until he unpacks his bedroom because they just moved there. So as he's unpacking, he throws on like these really, really like feminine shade, very gay, and he's dancing to this, and he's like on his bed singing and stuff. But as Lisa, she comes over because she's wondering why he's not there. She comes over. They end up, as they're unpacking his shit, they find a diary from Nancy in the original movie. So they pull the diary down, and they open it up and see where Nancy was writing in there that she was having dreams about a guy that has knives on his hand with a glove. He wears a red and green sweater. And this freaks out Jesse because he's like, holy shit, the chick that stayed in this room it was having the same nightmares that I am, and she went crazy and killed herself. That's what they say in the movie. She went crazy and killed herself. I think they say she went crazy and killed herself. Or she's in an insane asylum. I can't remember exactly what they say. I want to say they said that she went crazy and killed herself, but I'm not entirely sure. So, the movie kind of takes place from here where Lisa and him are trying to figure out about Fred Krueger, and, they go he worked there, that he raped and murdered, so they go there to try and find out about this. So the movie here's where the movie gets Nightmare on Elm Street. Dreams. That's like the main thing when it comes to a Nightmare on Elm Street. Freddy Krueger gets you in your dreams. When he kills you in your dream, you die in real life. That right there is the 10-second breakdown of A Nightmare on Elm Street. When somebody says, hey, so what's Nightmare on Elm Street about? It's about a guy who haunts you in your dreams, a serial killer who haunts you in your dreams. He chases you down, he fucking kills you, and if he kills you in the dream, you die in real life. Right there. That's how you break down A Nightmare on Elm Street in 10 seconds. In this movie, Jesse is haunted by Freddy Krueger, but somehow, in some way, Freddy Krueger is able to embody himself through Jesse, to the point where he's controlling Jesse in his sleep, to the point where he's going out and he's killing people. He kills his gym teacher in a ridiculous kill scene, by the way, where like the gym teacher, after he runs into Jesse at the gay bar and he sees that Jesse's drinking a beer, the gym teacher takes Jesse to the school, in the dark, by the way, which is fucking weird. He takes him and makes him run laps around the gym, all the while he's in his office just doing weird shit. And all of a sudden in his office, just like basketballs and tennis balls and tennis rackets and baseball bats start magically floating and throwing themselves at the gym teacher. Again, this doesn't make any sense because it's not a dream. Like, they're making it out to where this happens in Jesse's dream, but it's not. This is legitimately happening. So the gym teacher ends up just by a ghost, gets all of his clothes taken off, taken to the bathroom, tied to the shower with a towel, and then you see a fucking towel as if somebody's holding it, but there's nobody there. It's like a ghost holding a towel and whipping the gym teacher on the ass and the back. I'm telling you, I'm not making this up. This is in the movie. It doesn't make any sense. Jesse's in the shower while this is happening, and he's just seeing it, and he's freaking out. The gym teacher's getting smacked by this ghost with a towel, and then you just see the gym teacher's back get the vintage Freddy slash down the back, and he bleeds to death. Well, the very next morning, Jesse wakes up. He goes to school. There's tons of ambulances, fire trucks, policemen, and Grady, who's his friend I talked about earlier in the show, that he's the Jekyll and Hyde best friend, is like, dude, where'd you go? You know, what's his name got whacked last night. He's dead. And Jesse starts freaking out because he realizes that, oh no, I was the one that killed him, because I forgot to mention, after the coach gets, the gym teacher gets killed, like a bunch of steam from the shower like covers up the gym teacher, and then once the steam clears a little bit, Jesse's standing there with the Freddy Krueger glove, because that Freddy Krueger glove is in the boiling, or in the furnace down in the basement of 1428 Elm Street. So he's got the glove, and so he realizes, holy shit, I came here last night, this wasn't a dream, I killed him. But there's so much conflicting story to this, to the fact that the gym teacher, who's not, they literally say in the movie that he wasn't dreaming, obviously, but somehow the gym teacher is attacked by Freddy Krueger, even though he's not asleep. This is in the real life. This is where the fans hate this movie, because they completely scrapped what A Nightmare on Elm Street originally was, and it was you can only be attacked in your dreams. That doesn't stop when it comes to the movie not making sense. So Jesse is constantly feeling like he's going to throw up. His stomach is hurting. His head's like, he's got veins popping out and stuff. Now, I brought up earlier in the show when he's getting ready to go down on the chick, and then his tongue plops out, and it's like Freddy's tongue, and he's all disgusted. And then he flocks to Grady's house. He goes there, and he's like telling Grady, wake up. He's like, wake the hell up. He's like, I need to sleep, but I need you to wake me up if it looks like I'm having trouble sleeping. And so Jesse falls asleep, and Grady's trying to stay awake. He's flipping through the TV, and finally he looks over, sees Jesse sound asleep, and Grady just says, all right, buddy, sleep tight. And then Grady, he goes to sleep, or he gets ready to go to sleep, but then Jesse sits up, and he starts screaming, Grady, and he looks over at Grady, and he's like, what's wrong? And then Jesse starts acting like he's going to be sick. He gets on the ground. He's crawling. He's like, it looks like he's dying. He goes to the corner of the room, and he's facing Grady. This is the point of the movie that disgusts A Nightmare on Elm Street fans. While it is a very cool scene, it completely doesn't make sense. Jesse's in the corner, and he starts acting like he's going to throw up, and all of a sudden, his stomach rips open, and Freddy Krueger climbs out of his stomach into the bedroom with Grady, and Grady tries to run to his bedroom door. Now, this is a cool kill scene, by the way. It really is. It's a very cool scene. If they just would have stuck with the fucking story, it would have been different, because they would have made it out to where Jesse was asleep and Grady was asleep, and this is how it happened. But it's not. So Grady tries to run out of his door. Freddy Krueger comes through, and his parents, Grady's parents, is on the other side of the door. The door's locked. Grady's screaming at his parents. The parents are screaming at Grady. And all of a sudden, Freddy Krueger comes up, and then on the other side of the door, the parents are like trying to get in, and all of a sudden you just see like 3 slashes come through the door, and then blood comes out of the other side, and it's Krueger killing Grady. But this doesn't make any sense because now Freddy Krueger is legitimately in the real world. This is not in a dream. It's in the real world. Now Freddy Krueger crashes this pool party. All these kids are, they're drinking beer, they're smoking drugs and stuff, and they're having a good time and partying and fucking and all kinds of stuff. Freddy Krueger just shows up to this pool party, and he's just running around like a crazy hobo, killing kids. He's just running around. By kids, I mean like high schoolers. He's just running around, slashing people. They're not asleep. This is real life. At this point, this movie went away from what it originally was, and now it's become a Friday the 13th film. It's become a Halloween slasher movie. It went from, a type of sci-fi, like killer thriller horror movie to this has now just become a straight up slasher film. So Freddy's running around, and the original idea has now died. So the movie, this is when the movie turns into a shit show, which is a shame because there are cool scenes in the movie. There are cool kill scenes. There are just cool, practical effects, like when when Freddy Krueger bursts through his stomach. It's a very cool scene. But again, it's at this point that the movie doesn't make any more sense in the Freddy Krueger realm because he's no longer in the dream world. The dream world didn't necessarily exist in this movie. For the most part, it just didn't. Which is a shame because that's what the movie and the entire series or the franchise was built on, was the dream world. And don't worry, they get back to it because they release a slobber knocker of a film in Nightmare on Elm Street 3 when they go back to basics because this movie did so poorly. The movie did not do well in the theaters. It's not received well critically. And, the movie, it ends, of course, with Freddy. You watch the movie. I'm not going to explain how the movie ends. I'm just explaining you to the basics of this movie, how fans perceived it, and the story just got completely gutted to pieces. Not a lot of hot 80s chicks in this movie. The lead actress with Jesse plays Lisa. She's actually not bad. She's she's a ginger. She's pretty hot. Don't get me wrong. But not a lot of hot chicks in this one. No, especially compared to the first one, because I always thought that Heather Langenkamp was a smoke show. She's definitely hot in the first movie, but when she came back for a New Nightmare in '94, total smoke show, absolutely. And there are many movies throughout, even the bad movies, that have really hot chicks in them, but this one just was kind of. It's the lowest on the totem pole as far as that goes. But the movie itself, listen, we got to rate it, right? That's the point of this fucking show. It's master rating, and I have to give my rating to this movie. Now, this is not the worst one of the franchise. I would say amongst quite a few Freddy Krueger fans, they would not say this is the worst one because even though this movie didn't make sense as far as the franchise goes, it still embodies the horror Freddy, the scary Freddy, like the one that's not constantly cracking jokes while they made it work. And I do love those movies when he's kind of cracking jokes while killing people. And he's got the great lines like in Dream Warriors and number 3, where he's like, "Welcome to prime time, bitch." And I opened the first episode with that. And, before he would kill people, he would have, funny one-liners. And it was great. But in this movie, like the first movie, he would still make little wisecracks, but they were creepy. Just like this one, it embodies the scary Freddy. So for that, it's not the worst one. I know what the worst one is. I don't want to give it away yet, what the worst Nightmare on Elm Street movie is. You just got to wait and listen. Wait and listen. So I can't give it the rating that it's the worst one. Some people do. Most true Noah fans don't think it's the worst one. But this movie, as far as the rating goes, because I don't hate it, I've seen it many times. Obviously not as much as 1 and 3 and New Nightmare. But I've seen it more than 4 and 5, and Freddy's Dead. I'll tell you that much. So for that, I don't hate the actors in the movie. They're not bad. Not a lot of depth. The homoerotic part is a very odd take to the movie. But that's not going to elevate or whatever the other word is. It's not going to bring it up. It's not going to bring it down, of course, because that would just be weird of me to say something like that. But the movie itself, it completely scraps the entire idea of what Freddy Krueger is. He's still scary, but as far as a Nightmare on Elm Street, it's like not a Nightmare on Elm Street movie. It's like they stole Freddy Krueger and put him in a slasher movie. Nightmare on Elm Street on the first episode, a 7.7 out of 10 because it's fantastic. And I also made the announcement on the show that I will not judge categories of movies. So for instance, if I voted between A Nightmare on Elm Street, Shawshank Redemption, fucking Avatar, or whatever, there's one category here, and it's movies. I'm going to rate every single movie with the same type of rating system. I'm not going to rate like I do on the blog, like a horror movie rating. It is all one type here. So, with that being said, this movie is not good. It is not that good. I recommend you watch this movie, though, if you want to see Nightmare on Elm Street movies. I definitely recommend this one. Not over 1 and 3 and A New Nightmare. Okay, those 3 are the best. But I will say this is definitely worth one watch. Technically, they're all worth one watch. Don't get me wrong. But as far as the rating goes for this movie, 7.7 on the original Nightmare on Elm Street. On this movie, my official rating, a 5.1 out of 10. And I know you're thinking, whoa, that's low. Comparing this movie, especially to the first one, it is a huge downgrade. 7.7 to 5.1. Huge downgrade. And I'll be here to tell you, it's going to go lower down the road. Trust me. So be prepared for that. 7.7 on the first movie. This movie, I'm giving an official 5.1. A Nightmare on Elm Street 2, Freddy's Revenge. A huge downgrade from the first movie, but it's okay because they did one thing that not a lot of horror franchises can do. And this is legitimately, from all of the Nightmare on Elm Street fan base. Movie 2 was a huge downgrade. But movie 3, which we're going to be reviewing very shortly, movie 3 is almost regarded as better than the first. So the first was amazing. The second movie took a huge downgrade. And one thing not a lot of franchises can do is literally revive it with a movie that's arguably better than the birth of the franchise in A Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Dream Warriors. That's coming up later next week. We'll probably be releasing 2 episodes of this next week so I can try and get the Nightmare on Elm Street series knocked out as we head into October and we do an entire Halloween, horror movie franchise. Not horror movie franchise, but an entire Halloween filled with Friday the 13th, Halloween, Texas Chainsaw, Saw. We're going to do it all, baby. So next week we'll probably be knocking out a few of them. But that is it for Master Rating episode number 2. This has been A Nightmare on Elm Street 2. Freddy's Revenge, the final verdict. 5.1. That is your master rating. Thank you, everybody, for listening to this episode, of course. And if you got all the way to the end here, please follow us on Twitter at JB Sports Radio. Give us a subscription, whether it be on YouTube, iTunes, Podbean. If it's on iTunes, leave us a 5-star review. Please let me know on Twitter what you thought about this episode. Also on YouTube, down in the comment section below, give your own rating. I want to know what everybody's ratings are. You can hit me up on Twitter, on YouTube, Podbean, wherever it is. You can email me at thejbshowmail@gmail.com. You can email me your questions about this, your ratings, and I will read them on the very next episode of Master Rating. So that is it here today. I really hope you guys enjoyed this show. Master Rating episode number 3 will be dropping next week. I'm really excited. I love doing this. This is like what I love doing sports, of course, but my second love is talking about movies. So this has been a lot of fun. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I will see you next week for another episode of Master Rating. And until then, take care.